This is about the long term. And it's something that traditionally has been very bipartisan. And I'm pleased to see today we were able to come together on a core infrastructure package. This is not non-infrastructure items, without new taxes, and with the commitment from Republicans and Democrats alike that we're going to get this across the finish line. So I appreciate my colleagues behind me. This was a team effort. Everybody was equally involved. Kirsten Sinema did a great job leading the effort, and I want to now ask her to say a few words.
Thank you, Rob. You know, there are many who say that bipartisanship is dead in Washington, D.C. and across this country. But this historic agreement today between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and with the President of the United States shows that when a group of people who are committed with shared values to solving the problems and challenges our country faces, we can use bipartisanship to solve these challenges. As Rob said, and as the President said, no one got everything they wanted in this package. We all gave some to get some, because what we did was put first the needs of our country. This does represent a historic investment in our country's infrastructure, and it meets the needs of folks who live from Virginia out to Arizona. It invests in green energy and climate, recognizing the changing nature of our country and our future. It invests in broadband, in our power grid, in our structures. And we are delighted to go back to the Hill and begin earning more support from both Republicans and Democrats to get this bill across the finish line. There are other members of our group who'd like to say a few words, and so I'm going to scoot over and let other folks step up. And then we'll take questions after we finish. Can I come next? Susan?
Well, first I want to thank our two leaders, Kirsten and Rob, and every single member of this group. Everyone contributed to what is the largest infrastructure package in history. This is important. We've agreed on the price tag, the scope, and how to pay for it. It was not easy to get agreement on all three, but it was essential. It was essential to show the American people that the Senate can function, that we can work in a bipartisan way, and it sends an important message to the world as well, that America can function, can get things done, and particularly on an issue that, as Rob mentioned, we've been talking about the need for a large infrastructure package for decades. Today, we are delivering.
Let me just say very quickly, I'm just proud to be part of a bipartisan group, which I know has always been there, always can be there, and always will be there if we work together like we did. We've got an infrastructure package that really meets the needs of this country for the 21st century. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to show the rest of the world that we can still get big things done in a bipartisan way and lead the rest of the world.
Can you walk us through the timeline? Let me just take the. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
I want to comment a little bit further. We've talked about infrastructure, meaning roads and bridges. I'm from Louisiana, but I think I can speak for every coastal state and every riverine state. There's been an incredible problem associated with loss of coastline or flooding in these riverine systems. There's $47 billion for resiliency. When I called the White House initially to explore this, I said, do you mean like coastal restoration? Do you mean like riverine systems which are flooding and maybe we can do something to make it more resilient? Or wildfires to try and tamp that down? And they said that's exactly what we're speaking about. So I do think as we focus upon the roads and bridges, which is so important, we need to also think about how we're making a beginning investment in the resiliency that will be essential as we address our changing environment. No one knows that better than someone from Louisiana. One thing I'll add, and in this process, we'll also be creating those jobs that help rebuild the coastline or to build the pipelines to sequester off the carbon dioxide, et cetera. And I think it's important to send the message. There's going to be a lot of jobs that come out of this. So thank you.
Just want to add two quick points. One, when we announced the framework last week at $579 billion, it took a lot of work to get there and to maintain that. And I commend all of my colleagues. I mentioned to the President and Susan and I and a number of us, Joe and others, yesterday were at the funeral of my dear friend John Warner. And my hope is when this framework becomes law, that we do it in the spirit of John Warner. And I would hope to convince my colleagues that we actually name this legislation after him. We all commended his ability to work with people across party lines, the fact that he always put country first, and I think my colleagues have demonstrated that again.
I think it's important to recognize that when we say a bipartisan bill, what that really means, not just to those of us in the Senate, in the Congress working with the White House, but that signal that it sends to the country. Again, that we actually can work, that we actually can perform, that we can do something not for Republicans or for Democrats, but for Americans. When we talk about infrastructure, there's a lot of diversity here. My friend John Warner has mass transit. I don't have any roads. I have ferry boats.
Is John Warner here?
John Warner we put to rest yesterday. We're talking about the other.
The president.
Mark, not John.
That's right. That's right. Let's just say Warner has mass transit. But I'm speaking to the diversity of what we know and understand in this country, the diversity of needs, the diversity of interest, and thus why it's so important to come together not only across parties, but really to come together for projects that benefit the entire country. It's a great effort with extraordinary people.
Thank you. Well, let me congratulate everybody who's been part of this effort. The challenge now is to make sure that the rest of our caucus on the Democratic side and the Republican caucus know what's in this bill and can join us in supporting it. It is critical that we begin to invest in our infrastructure. We have underinvested for way too long. We spend less now than we did in the 1960s. If we're going to be competitive with China, with our adversaries, then we've got to make these investments. That's what this bill does, and I'm delighted to have the president's endorsement of it today.
Big job. Big job.
Oh, he's cleanup. He's cleanup.
Between us and lunch here. All right. I just say, look, this is a great group of people here. One of the big surprises I had coming to Washington was the sense that while everybody was fighting with each other, you know what, we get along really well. This group gets along very well. My colleagues in the Senate, we work together. And it's been years and years people have been talking about the infrastructure needs of our country. We know that. We recognize the crumbling infrastructure. And this group came together and actually got a job done. I don't know how far it's going to get. I think it'll get all the way. We got the president behind it, this group here. But we're going to keep working together. We're not finished. We got other projects to take on. But America works, the Senate works, and we can work together.
Here.
Everything.
Clean up.
Easy. We're saving the best for last.
That's
folks.
right. Clean up.
So look, you guys have been around a while. You've seen this place work and not work. This is a day where this place has worked. It's worked because people sat down and they did a tough job of compromise. And if you look at this group, it represents a broad base of states. This package really is good for the entire country, both urban America and rural America. Bill Cassidy said something that's very, very important. We're going to help businesses, we're going to help working families, but most importantly, this is going to create jobs for the future. And that's what this is really important. And then the last thing, since it's already been said, but I'm going to say it again. If we're going to compete with China, who's the pacing threat in this world, who wants to take our position over, this package is critically important. Thank you all for being here.